Welcome. Hello everyone joining us online or on site. Thank you so much for attending the Smart City Tech Week of Venturous Group. I am your host, Jie. Today's topic is smart computing. It is about how we can live and work better in a world of everything connected. Thank you for our panelists today. They are the big shots from the industry, academia, and the investment community. We are going to cover industrial IoT, cloud services, IoT operating system, robotics, autonomous driving, and the other emerging areas. So first, let's hear from our panelists and their self-introduction. Hello everyone on site and online. I am the General Manager of the AIoT or Industrial IoT Business Unit of Advantech. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you. Next one, Mr. He Haijian, Henry He from Kingsoft Cloud. Hello everyone. I am the CFO of Kingsoft Cloud, Henry He. Thank you so much for the invite. Our company is China's largest independent cloud service provider. We have enabled Chinese companies in their digital transition with many digital services. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you. Our next one is Professor Lee, a fellow at the Academy of Engineering of Singapore and also a chair professor of Zhejiang University. Hello everyone, online and offline. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you. My name is Der-Horng. I'm from Zhejiang University. I am a fellow at the Academy of Engineering of Singapore and also a chair professor of Zhejiang University. At the same time, I'm the president of Zhejiang University, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Institute. Thank you so much, Professor Lee. Next one, Mr. Chen from Yunqi Partners. Please introduce yourself briefly. Hello everyone, I am a partner at Yunqi Partners, which was founded in 2014. We manage 4 USD denominated funds and 3 RMB denominated funds. We have a deep root in tech. 2 main focuses are industrialization and digitization. We have invested over 160 early stage tech companies. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks everyone. So about this seminar arrangement, we are going to hear from Mr. Tsay and Mr. He before the panel discussion. We also provide simultaneous interpretation for those who are joining us from outside of China. Please make sure that you turn on the interpretation function. So now let's first hear from Mr. Tsay from Advantech about how industrial IoT can enable digital transition. Hello everyone, thank you so much for this invite from Venturous Group to talk with you here. The Advant Group has a long history. We are about to enter our 40th year. We are now 39 years old. So here you can see that we start as a hardware company specializing in control equipment. And we then made a foray into software. Now we are trying to make an impact in IoT and its applications. Our growth is inseparable from the development of IoT. If you look at the development of IoT and the Gartner curve, according to the Gartner report, the whole IoT industry, quite a lot of hype in the past decade. And now it is at the stage of stable development. Over the next few years, we will see the adoption of IoT and its enablement for many different sectors. It will bring new changes to different industries and sectors. There are some key technologies when it comes to IoT. One is connectivity. And it's also about how you can leverage AI tech to abstract the key data and to expand on the value of the data. There's also a technological advancement of telecommunication technology from 3G, 4G to 5G with a lower latency and mass connectivity abilities. Well, in the past, still now, there are many different use cases, many different scenarios. So how can you choose the most fitted or the best suited technology for the use case? I think it all depends on which use case that you look at. So here you can see at the bottom of the slide, there are many different devices, equipment. From a factory, there are even cars, there are bridges, even power devices. So how can we obtain key data from these equipment and devices? In the past, there are two main challenges. One is there is significant difference in the protocol of communications among these different equipment and devices. And secondly, many of the traditional equipment have been used for a decade, if not 2 decades. So how do we obtain data from these old equipment? And through the industrial IoT software platform, through the low-code development capabilities, once a device is connected, we're able to obtain the key data. So we divide the data into 2 categories. On the left, you have OT data, which is from equipment, factory floors, and other sites. And many companies, they have been around for many years. They have many different databases. The data is scattered across different databases. So how can we use data lake to combine OT and IT data to provide the data to different types of applications? So with the integration of OT and IT data, when companies are digitizing their business, when the managers of the smart cities are doing their job, with the data now they can connect the dots. There has been a lot of interest in cloud tech and cloud platforms. In the past, there were a lot of applications on the 2C side. It is about connecting your cell phone to the cloud. There are many use cases or applications there. But sometimes this cloud capability is too far away from the end devices. So now we are seeing this shift where you have these capabilities located on the edge. With increased computing power on the edge, and with more understanding of applications on the edge. Another important thing is that you need to make sure that there is some certain timeliness with the data. So now we have a more powerful capability on the edge. Like within a smart city, there are many different use cases. There are many buildings, there are transportation facilities, there are many mechanical and electrical facilities. there are also power infrastructure. In addition to traditional power infrastructure, there are EVs, there are PV panels. A smart city contains so many things. It needs to connect these different equipment and devices. How do we obtain this massive amount of data? How can we make our city smarter and our life more convenient and our work more productive? This is all about IoT. For example, in this use case, in this transportation case, we can leverage videos and a device on the edge with high computing power. We can support this use case. And this device on the edge might be installed on a lamp or on a traffic light. So it has to be heat resistant as well as waterproof. It should also be easy to install. So computing is taking place on the edge instead of only happening on the clouds. And here you are looking at many different use cases and the different looks and feels in the road transportation system or in the railway transportation systems. So we provide different types of software and hardware solutions to enable our industries. And inside a city, we would produce a lot of waste, garbages, which would end up at a dumping ground. So we make the dumping grounds smarter with identification capabilities as well as sorting robots. We can save a lot of manual work. With over-the-edge computing and AI tech, we are able to enable this city garbage management use case. Another thing is equipment. We would serve the equipment service provider or the equipment operators. In the times of IoT, it has to do with connectivity, the access to high-value data. And it has to do with how we can leverage IoT. Like in this factory, we need to support with software, hardware, and AI tech to make sure the equipment run more smoothly and more efficiently. And many of the equipment would have a motor. You can find it everywhere. A motor is very prone to damage or failure. We need to tell when a motor will break down. So through this sensoring equipment, we're able to tell based on the communication capabilities, the sensoring capabilities, as well as algorithms. We can very quickly tell the equipment users at what time in the future your motor might fail. Another thing is production lines. There are many equipment on a production line. How can you tell the status of your equipment? For example, many of the equipment might have been used for 5 years, if not 8 to 10 years. So through edge computing, through gateways, we will have access to the key data. Coupled with OT data, we can very efficiently manage and run that plant. Another important part is energy inside a city, given the megatrends around the world and China's 2030 strategy. So how can we leverage IoT to obtain energy consumption data in a factory, in a city? There's a lot of power consumption data to which we have no visibility. But with IoT, we can obtain the key data. We can gain the data and then visualize it. We can compute it on the edge, and we can optimize your setup. And we can also tie that with energy saving or carbon reduction targets of companies. We can help them to do reporting, and we can help them to set up their carbon reduction targets for the next 3 to 5 years. So at the core of our strategy is to help build a smarter planet. We want to become the driver for our planet to become more intelligent and more sustainable. Yes, just make our planet smarter and more sustainable. That is our mission. So we will continue to popularize the concept of AIoT together with industries and the universities. Also, together with our partners, we will have close programs. We hope that we can be included in Dow Jones Sustainability Index in 2025. Another thing is green energy and green operations. Our target is that by 2026, 50% of our power will come from green energy, and by 2032, that we will use 100% renewable energy in our operations. And in our industrial park, we have incorporated a myriad of tech to make sure that we are energy efficient and productive. So here you're looking at many different sectors or segments. So we need to work with our partners to co-create and to drive this forward. Together with them, we hope we can enable our partners. And with our partners in our solutions in IoT, we really want to do our part in driving the efficient operations in many different sectors and industries. So we also believe that IoT will be adopted in cities, in all walks of life. The key is making everything more intelligent. We hope that we will help companies and our society as a whole to achieve this broad-based transition. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to more discussions around digital transformation. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much, Mr. Tsay. Now I would like to give the floor to Henry He, the CFO of Kingsoft Cloud, about how cloud services can enable industries and smart cities. Hello, everyone joining us online and on-site. I am the CFO of Kingsoft Cloud. My name is Henry He. Thank you so much for this invite from Venturous Group to this seminar, and I'm really glad I have this opportunity to talk about against the tide of digital transformation and smart city development, how a local cloud computing and the cloud service company, the things that we have accomplished. So I have prepared a PowerPoint deck, but I will zoom in on the key points. Just a quick introduction about Kingsoft Cloud, which is part of Kingsoft Group. The group is one of the largest Chinese general software companies. We have been providing more than 30 years of service for enterprises. We rank among the top 3 independent public cloud providers in China. We serve over 593 leading companies, including large corporations, large internet companies, as well as smart city digital transformation enablers. The digital economy and digital transition penetration rate in China and the role of cloud services. This also shows our development as a company. After 2014, 2015, in the first half of the internet economy, we provided most of the internet companies, including the leading short-form video companies with storage, computing, AI, big data-related capabilities. But after 2016, 2017, the second half of the battleground, we now see the rapid development of industrial IoT, and the cloud services are now playing also an equally important role in this new aspect of digital economy. So our estimates show that by 2024, government services, finance, and healthcare services will reach a market size of over 100 billion RMB separately. So this slide indicates that in the process of building the underlying digital foundation, China is quite different from other countries. Like in the US, the SaaS layer is well established. But when it comes to industry-specific solutions for finance, for healthcare, or for other types of sectors, large companies and government clients, in addition of deploying on the clouds, they also need their IT architecture reshaped. So this requires a different deploying model, different from the US, where the business model with SaaS and PaaS are already well established. So we need to provide native technical capabilities. But on top of that, we also need to expand on what types of use cases or applications that we can provide and support for our clients. So let me use an example in Beijing. Beijing as a developed tier 1 city, how the city uses big data and which level of governments should govern this. Who are the users? The definition of the use cases and how it is approached. This could provide a benchmark or serve as a model. So we have done a lot of things in the area of educational clouds or the property exchange platform. We also help tackle environmental issues. We have seen significant improvement in air quality in Beijing. So we definitely have done a lot of work as the largest cloud service provider in Beijing. What we have realized that even governments and the affiliated public institutions have gradually warmed up to the subscription model. But of course, they will still own the underlying assets. But at the technical level, it is public cloud-based. But it's very different from the public cloud model deployed by internet companies. So there are different ways to approach this. There are subscription. There is fees based on actual use. And from the provincial level to the city level, people have different way to approach this, and they have found their own business models. In the next slide, You're now looking at this case of healthcare cloud, one of the future directions for digitization. In a traditional healthcare system in China, we used to have this old IOE model, but now from the national level to the provincial level to the local level, there is a need for data integration and exchange. We need to be able to send patient images across different provinces and to save unnecessary costs. So we can avoid the situation where the patients need to get multiple consultations, multiple tests, which could definitely exacerbate the medical bills burden on the medical insurance system. We should be able to share the images, prescriptions, and to bring interoperabilities between the hospital's payment system and the basic medical insurance systems. You can see here at 3 intersections, we have the connectivity with the National Health Commission system and the National Medical Insurance System. We remember in the COVID battleground in Wuhan city and in the rest of Hubei province, we had some deployment. We are able to charge the clients based on their actual use. So on this slide, you're looking at our observations of the recent developments. So there are many directions due to COVID, thanks to the new regulations on platforms, as well as the dual carbon targets set by China. So I think from what we see in the industry, we have seen many positive changes in the area of digital asset protection, data privacy. There have been a number of regulations or legislations passed by China. There are now rules in place. Of course, we are still at the early stage. It might take time, but these are the keywords that really matter. These are the megatrends for digital economy going forward. You can see at the outbreak of COVID-19, there is a significant increase in data, but after the peak of COVID, there was some volatility in the amount of data. In a post-COVID era, there will be changes to the accumulation as well as the use of data. If you look at the Health Commission system, they talk about efficient use of data. And the governments want to also better integrate combined data. Another area is the education industry and how they can support the different interactive use cases for education provision. So definitely very positive signals or changes for the industry. So let me share with you what we think about the values. And like in the US, where the market is quite mature, they have very clear definition on products, but there is a lack of efforts in use cases. But this is what the Chinese cloud service providers can provide. This is where our value lies. And these clients need the more mature technology providers to support them. So we have classified this into 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. So we had internet companies that migrated to cloud services. So that was 1.0. And now we're also seeing this shift of traditional enterprises to the clouds. And going forward, there will be the integration of technology and services. It will be asset heavy, but also service oriented. It is about converting the value of ICE into commercial value and the use case value, and also help the clients with their data migration, data storage, data backup, and to generate value and to tie that with the existing environment of the clients. So for all Chinese clients and stakeholders, this will be something quite critical. So we call this integrated cloud services. Now let's stay on this slide. We talked about the significance of the ecosystem. So we see these different segments on top of PaaS, SaaS, and IaaS. And then we have this ecosystem that is based on open source is already quite established. And we hope our integrated cloud services can provide our services at the front and to support different use cases. And we really hope that we can become a driver for China's digital economic transition. And since this could be quite asset heavy, this also requires better understanding from the company side. So they need to partner with service providers so as to reduce cost, to achieve high quality growth, and to generate more value. So this is what I have for today's presentation. Thank you so much, Henry, for your excellent presentation. So based on that, I have a question. When it comes to smart city, governments are an indispensable client for service providers. So what are their special requirements, and what is the unique positioning or strengths of Kingsoft Cloud? A great question. In mainland China, data source, data users, and all the driving forces are closely tied with the governments. In the more developed regions and cities, people have set up the big data bureaus. There are also financial offices to drive this financial transition. And last year, there are a number of legislations introduced around personal data privacy to really strengthen data protection and the rules around data. So we're really happy to see that the governments are embracing the idea of using data as a tool to serve their functions. For example, in Beijing, the old property exchange system is based on the old IOE architecture and old IT system, but now it is on the cloud. So like for the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, when they register properties, they will have backups on the clouds. And the results have proven to be so much more efficient, saving a lot of time for the Beijing residents. It also serves as an important means to protect data security. So they definitely realize the role of digital transition in governing the city. Well, in the past, people really grapple with the fact that the SaaS industry in China is underdeveloped. We had the privacy issues or the unwillingness to pay for the service. There is also the conflicts between customization and standard delivery. But with recent years of progress, governments are now warming up to the idea of using subscription as an option for paying for the IT services. So eventually you will see that the Big Data Bureau will be the site that raises the requirement. They're like this project manager. And then the Commission Bureau will be the payer and the user of the data. It's not exactly 100% SaaS model, but it's like a rudiment of that. So you need to understand the willingness and of the payer, and you need to make sure things can work tightly. And of course, there are challenges. One of the biggest challenge is the cost and difficulty of data migration from the traditional ITC model to this cloud-based or SaaS model with a relatively weak foundation in IT in China. I think migration will become a difficulty at the execution level for digital transition. Thank you, Henry. I have a follow-up question. We know there are many cloud service providers in China. So what is so special about Kingsoft in terms of your content of service or positioning? What is your core competence? I believe panelists, including Professor Lee, understand that when it comes to cloud service, the trend is to have multi-cloud and neutrality. These are the most two important things. Last year, with tightened regulations around platforms, we need to have multi-location DR centers and deployment and multiple vendors to ensure data security. That is at the technical level. Secondly, China will have very different approach to PaaS from the US, where it is dominant by standard products and large cloud platforms. Companies have strong IT capabilities. They're able to take care of customization to adapt to their own use cases. But in China, services and solutions are the top prioritized considerations for CTOs or companies when thinking about moving from on-prem deployment to the clouds. So we need to be very heavy on solutions and light on the underlying cloud foundation. We are very strong in this regard. We are better at this than other companies in areas of government services, healthcare, and financial services. And during COVID, in Hubei province, we were able to help them. Now, after 2 years since the initial outbreak of COVID, we now bring an interoperability of the data sharing on the clouds. We help address this problem with where the National Health Commission couldn't access the patient data in the shelter hospitals during the most difficult times of COVID. So now we have very strong interoperability in data, very smooth data flows. I believe that this is something that cloud service companies that have a very deep history in internet couldn't provide. And this has become a strength of our company. I think this should be our core competence in providing these solutions and services. So you also mentioned the focus on the verticals. I have a question for Mr. Tsay. You talked about Advantech's business landscape or business presence in these different verticals. So from the standpoint of these verticals of a smart city, are there any meaningful cases that you can share with us? Based on our own resources and strengths, because we also are a manufacturer, we have a manufacturing team of over 4,000 people, all across different parts of different locations. And we are very strong in smart manufacturing. So we have plants. We have in Kunshan, Jiangsu province, at the peak of our capability, we had 2,700 workers. with digitization and automation, we now only have 2,000 people, but our production capacity has more than doubled. And within our office park, we are able to achieve very high energy efficiency. So I believe this area of smart energy, thanks to our own experience and application, we have definitely accumulated a lot of useful experience. Another thing is equipment, which is a major sector. Well, in the past, our business stops at the sales of the equipment, but now there are also requirements for maintenance and repairs, which has been very challenging for the manufacturers. I also touch upon smart transportation within a city. The intelligence of your transportation system, the informatics, still have a lot of applications of IoT. Of course, there are a list of sectors or industries. We already are looking at like 20 to 30 different sectors. We will only name some of the industries that have very large market sizes, and they have very obvious pain points and needs. In the space of energy, thanks to the push from the government, we have seen booming development in recent years. So, in a nutshell, IoT and digitization and their applications or adoption, I think there are three driving forces. One is like the readiness of technologies. In the past, we're not adequate in the technical or technological capabilities, but we are now seeing technologies becoming more advanced, more mature. And the second thing is user needs, user demand. They now really are experiencing the benefits. We have seen some great results, like our Kunshan-based plant has opened our floor to our clients, to other companies in the field, to really boost their confidence, to show them the feasibility and the possibilities. So this has also become a driving force for the adoption. And the third is that companies like Advantech have shifted from a product provider to a service provider. That means now we have a more mature industrial ecosystem with many partners or participants. Of course, our expert mentioned that different industries require different applications or use cases. So we need to co-create, co-innovate with others. We need to have subject matter experts and partners. For example, there is a significant difference in knowledge or expertise between semiconductors or transportation. There is a huge difference between these different use cases. So we work with our leading clients and to explore and to serve different sectors. Thank you, Mr. Tsay. Professor Lee, Mr. Tsay mentioned that in their own plant, they have done a lot of applications for their clients. And you, as the fellow at the Academy of Engineering of Singapore, you have provided a lot of counseling for the government and for large corporations. So I think we have generated a significant amount of data from different industries, but we're yet to better utilize the data. So how can we really turn data into this important industrial asset and to really maximize its values? So let me zoom in on this topic of smart transportation. This is one of my specialty areas. I want to touch upon that. So if we look at transportation on the roads, we know that there are many traffic detectors. It could be sensor coils or cameras. Even when the car is moving on the road, there's a lot of data generated. And then you have your portable devices. There are your cell phones. And when you are using an app, there's a lot of data produced at the back. So yes, definitely. I think this amount of data is just unbelievable. With such a massive amount of data, have we really find benefits? Has it really been useful to us? Of course, with 5G technology, we're able to transmit data. We are able to upload the data to the clouds, many ways to store the data. But I think the biggest pain point is that in face of this massive, this ocean-like data, we don't know how to do with it. Or we might have some ideas about using it, but we don't have the computational power to do it. And on the other hand, even with the right computational power, I don't know what kind of information I should mine from the data. I don't have the right algorithms to do that. So I couldn't generate really useful data. I think this is something, this is the things that are facing many sectors or industries. Mr. Tsay and Professor Lee mentioned that smart transportation is a critical use case for everything connected. Mr. Chen, I know you have invested in many companies in the areas of self-driving, robotics, next-gen databases. Recently, Ford just shut down its Argo AI, which has created a lot of debates. So what is your take on the commercialization trend of self-driving tech, and what is Chinese companies' place in this global tide? This year, 2022, we now see these AI-enabled drivers, just like very well-trained, experienced human drivers. They are able to drive very well safely and making the passengers feel very comfortable in the car. So we have seen some leading self-driving companies conducting driverless tests. And on the legal front, this year, Shenzhen issued the IVC management regulation, which clarifies the whole thing, the whole chain of self-driving from road testing, access, registration, and legal responsibility, really clearing the legal roadblocks. So the catch is the cost. The reason self-driving is so expensive is that there are many pricey sensors such as high-speed LiDARs are in place. You also require expensive AI chips such as NVIDIA's Orin chips or Horizon's J5, J7 chips. Well, before we had mass production, the cost was through the roof. Last year, according to our survey, the average cost for the self-driving capabilities was around $40,000, but it made no sense economically for the consumers to spend an additional $40,000 just for the self-driving capabilities. But thanks to the rapid development on the technological front in the past 1 to 2 years, now we are at the stage of mass production. So the related software, hardware such as computing chips or sensors have reduced cost. This year, the self-driving capability cost about $4,000, representing 10% of the total cost of a car. So that really signifies a big step in the development of self-driving cars. So I believe we will see more self-driven cars in the future on the roads, but maybe they will be rebranded into concepts like City Pilot Assist or Tesla's autopilots. But at its core, these are self-driving cars and technologies. So I have a follow-up question on that. I would like to invite our panelists to all talk about this. In face of this very complex and tense geopolitical situations, for companies that are going abroad or companies that are exporting their products or companies who want to build this ecosystem, they definitely face this significant challenge. So what is your view on the challenges facing Chinese companies going abroad, and how can Chinese companies build an ecosystem with both their domestic and international counterparts in order to drive the digitization of different sectors? Mr. Chen, do you want to take a shot at that first? Yes, so I want to talk about challenges first. So we have seen investment that goes into basic software. For example, we invested in a unicorn company called PingCap. They're just like a cloud-based Oracle. Recent years have seen this company's overseas expansion. They have been able to snatch purchasing orders from companies like Airbnb, and their purchasing orders on an annual basis are already over $1 million. But they are facing a big challenge because the entire American society is very vigilant. They are on guard against Chinese products and Chinese companies. On one hand, they find your products good for value. They want to buy your products, but they are very vigilant. For example, PingCap experienced some very discriminatory contracts. For instance, you need to have a U.S. person, a U.S. citizen, facing the customers, as opposed to having a Chinese service engineer. Well, I do feel powerless with these things, but for companies that are expanding on the overseas arena, they have to play by the rule. They need to abide by what's required of them in this international market, and they need to find a way to do business. So maybe they can just do as what the American company has been doing in China. When they are in the U.S., they should hire the U.S. team for their U.S. operations, just like the American companies having have their Chinese operations and their total Chinese executive team. Thank you so much for that. Professor Lee, as a fellow, you have also facilitated a lot of collaboration between the industry and the academia community. So what is your take on this? I believe China has made significant progress, if not leapfrogging growth in technology in the past. Based on my observations, Chinese companies are not bold enough to go overseas. But now people outside of China are very much on guard against Chinese companies expanding overseas. So I don't really agree with this stance that they take against Chinese companies. But on the other hand, this is also a recognition of the strengths of Chinese companies because they fear Chinese companies might overtake them. So about overcoming the challenges, I think there is a saying in China that it is such a big world out there, I just want to go and check it out. Yes, there is a massive global market, and Chinese companies should have the courage to go outside of China, but there are considerations due to international competition or geopolitics. These are important things that you should consider. But what's even more important is that you should build your own ecosystems. Mr. Chen offered some really valid suggestions. And there is also a concept that is local internationalization. So that means Chinese companies that are expanding overseas, you should localize your operations so you can better assimilate into the local communities, the local ecosystem, as opposed to merely getting POs and bring that purchasing orders back to China. Definitely, I think Mr. Tsay has a lot to offer on this point, since you have lived in mainland China for many years, and your company has over 300 partners. Do you want to also talk about this? Thank you so much for the question. So when you try to take your business global, I believe there are a few key considerations. As Professor Lee mentioned earlier, for starters, you need to have premium products, high quality products. If you really make great products that are needed by customers, even though some of the companies don't really do a lot of marketing, as long as they have great products, they will have customers. A few days ago, I attended one of our partners' meeting. This is a Zhejiang-based tool maker. They are already the number 2 tool maker in the world in this very vertical, and they supply for leading multinationals such as BMW or Tesla. That really means good wine needs no bush. So you need to make really good wine, really good products. Secondly, facing the global markets, one important thing is culture. I remember a long time ago, since I've been with the company for many years, when I was younger, attending a global meeting of Advantech, I have an Indian guy, a Japanese guy sitting on both sides of me. It was like a mini United Nations. So we talked about entering the Japanese market, learning Japanese, or building connections. But the better way to approach it was to have a local team for that effort. I think this has become a very much common approach now. So cultural barrier or culture is definitely a key consideration. You need to develop a great local team and cultivate great local talents. And this has really helped with our company's global expansion. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much. I think for companies that have operations in mainland China, they need to pay attention to the safety, stability of their business and to manage risks. There is this restriction on some types of chips due to tighten China-US relationship. In the past, restrictions were more general, but now they are more specific to a certain manufacturer, to a certain chip of some certain computational power. So I think for companies like us or many IT companies, they have this software and hardware compatibility issue. Their business scenarios are based on previous hardware, tech, and assumptions. So R&D takes time. There is R&D cycle. So they need to test the compatibility and to find alternatives. So that could be a risk or a challenge. For companies going abroad, and then for their local operations on these overseas markets, there are 2 points I want to make. First, when they go to these overseas markets, there could be changes to the legal framework, to the laws, regulations, to the makeup of their customer base, to the business models when they're operating on the international markets. So they need to make sure that they are ready for different scenarios in order to build the right business model in these international markets. We know that we have GDPR in EU or this data white book in Singapore, so different requirements from different markets. Technologically speaking, there's no significant difference in technology. Distributive technology is open source. There is no significant gap between China and other countries or regions. But when we go to these international markets, we need to make sure that we take care of ownership, privacy of data, because there are different rules. And this is where Chinese companies is lacking. There's no problem with technology. Another thing is that I believe geopolitical conditions have a bigger impact on the supply chain of your business model now. Inevitably, sometimes when you are the international markets, you will directly or indirectly compete with global companies. So you need to make sure that your business is safe. That is a challenge. In the past, we talk about management, culture, but now it's all about facing the legal challenges, the supply chain, and how your business model can be profitable. Thank you so much, Henry, for your remarks. And this is the end of today's seminar. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.